Hello and welcome back to Simply Scrapbooked. I'm Kristen and I am going to show you a little bit of the fun things about our blank card kits. So on a previous video, I shared with you my favorite card kit, the Blue Jean card kit, as well as another one, the G Golly card kit. But they also have card kits that have blank cards in them. And what's so great about that is you can use up your scraps and make some great cards. So when I was doing the Creative Cafe International crop this weekend, Tammy McEwen gave us a formula for these cards. And I thought it was so great and it was so easy to put together. And you just do the same formula on all 12 cards. And it was quick and easy and fun. So I thought I would make my own formula and share that with you today. So what you're going to need is first the set of the Creative Memory blank cards. Now it comes in this great little box. It's worth $7 for the box by itself. And that's all this card kit costs is $7. And inside you'll find 12 blank cards and 12 envelopes. So I'm going to put the envelopes away for right now. And we have just the blank cards. So, other things you're going to need to do this. You'll need 4 laser borders. Now, when you buy laser borders, they come one of each kind in a pack. So I always buy 2 packs so that when I'm doing a page layout, I can have the same layout on both pages. Every now and then I'll use part of one, and that's why I have these 2 extra ones here. I thought I'd go on and use them up on my cards so that I still have my duplicate ones to do 2-page spreads with. You're also going to need some embellishments. So I have a few embellishments here. You'll need a repositionable tape runner. Now this normally comes in our normal blue case. This one was special out of a mystery box. But if you have any case, it just pops off. The repositionable has the green plastic on it. And you would just take out your regular tape runner and put in the repositionable if you didn't want to have 2 cases. Now I have multiple cases, so I keep the yellow one as repositionable all the time. Then you'll also want some foam squares. These are great because it pops up a little piece of your decoration and really makes it more 3-dimensional instead of just flat. Now you're also going to need some paper. So you're going to need 3 sheets to use as your background. So I've chosen these 3. They're pretty simple, or they're not like this one that is a little loud and crazy. They're more muted tones for the background. You could also use cardstock as the background. You're going to need 1 print where you like both sides. I chose this one because I do like both sides of that. And then you'll need 2 tone-on-tone cardstocks, 2 tone-on-tone or cardstocks. So I'm going to use this one with the dots, and I'm also going to use this one with the back side of it because I like the back side just as well. So I'm going to use both sides of that and make some extra cuts out of this one. And then you're going to need one that we're going to do circles out of as well. And I like it in a contrasting color because I am going to steal a little bit of Tammy's design. There's one element that I really loved, and I'm going to use it in what we do today. So what cuts are we going to make? So here's a list of the cuts. We're going to start off by making our background cut, which is little boxes to put on the front of a card. We're going to make a bunch of strips. We're going to make 6 circles, and then we're going to make a few strips that we can cut up and put the greetings on. So you can write, happy day, thinking of you, happy birthday, whatever you want on those little strips to add a little sentiment to your card. So let's get started. I'm going to start with the circles. Move everything out from underneath. These, by the way, were the bonus greetings from the Blue Jean card kit. So I may use some of these on my cards as well as handwriting them. And then my lasers. Okay, so I've got my paper on my custom cutting system mat. You're going to need for tools your smallest circle cutter pattern or guide and your red blade. So for those of you who don't know, there's a track here and a track here, and these little pegs go in the track, and then the blade is in the yellow. So it goes around like this and it cuts on the outside. Okay? Now if you have the old round blades, notice this is kind of a hexagon, you have to actually kind of turn your hand as you go around. With this one, this part turns. So as you go around, you keep your hand in one position and it'll cut. So we're going to start by cutting 6 circles. Just put the little pegs in the groove. Go around. That's 1. There's 2. Let me make sure I got that one. It's always a good idea to wiggle your paper a little bit when you finish cutting, because once you move the pattern, the guide, it's hard to get it back in the same spot. It's next to impossible. So there's 3. There's 4. There's 5, and I'll come back down here and do number 6. And there's 6. So then you can put your cutting system away. And you're going to pick up your 6 circles. And we are done with this paper, so this is just scrap. Then you're going to need your 12-inch trimmer. Now, one of the things that I learned at the Creative Cafe International Crop was that if you put a circle right up here and you make sure it touches here and here, and then you cut, it will cut right in the middle. So I cut 2 at a time there. So I've actually got 4 half circles cut. So let me do the rest of those real quick. Again, touching and touching and cutting. Now you notice I am not concerned with the fact that this is a plaid and that if I'm cutting straight and parallel to these lines, that doesn't matter to me. I kind of like it off center like on that one. So I just cut them. If it matters to you, don't use a plaid with, don't use a paper with a stripe on it. Use something that has an all over design. So now I've got my little half circles. So now I'm ready to cut some strips. So we're going to start off with this one. This is my pattern paper. And I'm going to, my print, I'm going to cut 1.5 inch strips. And I'm going to cut 4 of those. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then notice I've got some left. I'm going to be using the back side of this as part of this. So I'm going to cut some 1-inch strips now. There's 1. 2. 3. And 4. And then I've got a nice strip left over for another project. All right, so I've cut through, I've done this one, and I've done my circles. So now let's do our 12 base pieces. So for me, that's these papers. So when you're figuring out how to get the most out of your paper, a lot of times the answer is to use a little formula. So if I want 5 1/4 by 4 1/4, 5.25 by 4.25, if I add those together, I get 9 1/2. That tells me I need a 9 1/2 inch square piece of paper to work with. If I wanted 4 1/2 by 6 1/2, I would want an 11 inch square. So you see how that works? If you want to be able to get 4 mats out of each piece of paper, you take the dimensions, add them together, and that tells you what size square you're working with. So we're doing this. We're going to do 9 1/2 inch squares. So take my first paper. I need to pull out the arm on my cutter. And I'm going to go to 9 1/2 inches right there. Make sure it's all the way up at the top. Gonna cut. Turn it. 9 1/2 again. I'm gonna cut. So now I've got that 9 1/2 inch square. So to get my mats, I'm going to go first to 4 1/4, because that's my smaller measurement. And then I'm going to go down to where the front of the housing is at 6 1/4, because it'll be cutting at 5 1/4. So down to 6 1/4. Then I'm going to turn my paper, 4 1/4, down to 6 1/4. Just went a little far on that one. There's my first mat. Going to turn, 4 1/4, down to 6 1/4, 4 1/4. This time you're going to cut all the way down. Leaves you with your final mat. And see, I did go a little far, but this is going to be the background, so that's not going to matter. And it's left you with a nice little square. We're not going to use the squares, but those are great to have for later. So I'm going to repeat that process with my other 2 papers. So I'm going to start off at 9 1/2. By 9 1/2. Come into 4 1/4. Cut down to 6 1/4. Turn. Go to 4 1/4. My boxes are in the way here. There we go. 4 1/4. Go down to 6 1/4. There's my first one. Turn it, go to 4 1/4. Cut down to 6 1/4. One last turn. 4 1/4. Down to 6 1/4. And I've got my little square. And then one more time, 9 1/2. By 9 1/2. Then I go to 4 1/4, down to 6 1/4, make a turn, 4 1/4, 6 1/4, 4 1/4, down to 6 1/4. And the last one, you just cut. So now I've got my 12 background pieces. So there's all my backgrounds. And set them aside. So now I still need some stripes. So I've got 1, 2. I'm going to need 2 more stripes. Now I happen to like both sides of this, so instead of using an extra piece of paper, I'm going to use both sides of this paper as well. So I'm going to cut 1-inch strips, 4 of them on each side. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now I'm using the back side, but you know, obviously I can cut from this side. So I'm going to cut another 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so there's my extra, and now I've got my other stripes. Now, all of my stripes are going to need to be cut into 4-inch segments. So I like to take them 2 at a time, line them up at 4 inches, and cut. And I'm going to cut all of them this way. So now I've got these. Grab 2 more. Four inches. Keep them together on the end. 4 inches. 2 more. 4 inches. 4 inches. Last of this paper. Four inches. 4 inches. 4 inches. Okay, so that's all of this paper. So then I've got my other strips that I cut out from the beginning. Again, I'm going to want 4 inches. So you can put them all together. Just keep them all nice and tight. You can go to 4 inches. Make sure you go all the way through and you can cut it there. Then line them back up. Go to 4 inches. There we go. So there's that paper. And then I have my 1.5 inch strips, and these are also going to be 4 inches. Four. 4 and 4. Now the last thing I need to cut into 4-inch strips are my laser borders. So I'm going to lay them down the same way I did the paper. Go to 4 inches. 4 inches. 2 more. And the last one. Okay, and with that, all of my cutting is done. So you can put your trimmer away and get your cards back out. So here are my cards. Here I've got my cards down here. I've got my laser embellishments, my thicker strip, my 1 inch of this one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so these are going to go to this side, and these are going to go to this side. Now, I'm going to play with this a little bit, and I'm going to decide that I want them in that order, I think. And then I've got my backgrounds, and I've got my little half circles. So we're going to start by taking a background and a card, and you're going to tape down your background using your repositionable tape runner. Now, when I put this on, I like to eyeball things. So I'm eyeballing about 1/8 of an inch here and 1/8 of an inch here, and then taping it down. So you'll do that for all 12 cards. I'm going to do it with two different backgrounds here so we can see how 2 different ones come out. Now, it's really great to have your repositionable tape runner on here, because if you do put it down and it's not centered and that bothers you, you can just peel it right up and stick it down again. So I love repositionable tape runner. All right, so I've got 2 cards. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start lining up my stripes. So I start with the one over here, and I'm going to put it on the very edge, centered top to bottom. Take the next one, put it right next to that one. Now, something you will learn is that all 12 by 12 paper is not created equally. So see, this one comes up just a little further and comes down just a little further. So I'm going to peel that up, and I am going to put it right there so that the top matches and the bottom has the hangover. Okay? Then I'm going to put down my patterned one, my print. Again, lining up the top, and if the bottom comes down a little bit, that's okay. Then I'm going to take my last paper, and I'm going to put it onto this side. So again, I'm putting it, centering it top to bottom. And then I'm going to take my piece of my laser border, and when you use repositionable tape runner, when you run it down this, it's only going to stick on the board, on the paper where it needs to stick. So that's going to leave some leftover that you need to put on something. So I like using the little packets that our photos come in, or any scratch piece of paper, or you can use a piece of cardboard covered in parchment paper. That works really well too. So I just run this down here, and it only sticks on here where it needs to stick. And if you look at this, if you can see the little dots, that's where the tape runner is. So I'm going to put this right here. I'm going to overlap it a little bit with my print. Okay? Last step on this one is the circle, half circle. And on it, I'm going to come all the way down